several months ago, we compared two high school write-ups, high school football write-ups.
This is what Gannett was doing.
Gannett was doing it, yeah. And I pointed it out from two different newspapers, but they're very, almost identical, just insert name here, using AI. And I wonder what SI, what their report on Jonathan Taylor would look like right now, using their AI-generated stories, because they were also in the experimental phases of this, where they've got AI writing staff reports, more or less, on news of the day or a game recap or whatever. They were looking at it, but they're going through a different company to provide this content. The accusations are now that they have not just AI content, but fake bios for writers that are actually just AI-generated write-ups. But, Chad, they're saying that's not the case.
Well, so that
Sports Illustrated?
The report is that both the articles are AI-generated and the supposed humans that wrote them are AI-generated profiles of not real people, which violates every bit of journalistic whatever you want to throw out there, right? And the journalism community is rightfully outraged by this.
Sure.
The Sports Illustrated Writers Union issued a statement saying they were horrified by this report and allegations of what's going on. Well, the parent company that owns Sports Illustrated has responded and has said the following in denying this. The articles in questions were product reviews and were licensed content from an external third-party company, Advon Commerce. A number of Advon's e-commerce articles ran on certain Arena, which is the parent company of SI's websites. We continually monitor our partners, and we're in the midst of a review when these allegations were raised. The statement continues, Advon has assured us, this is where it gets a little weird. Advon has assured us that all of the articles in question were written and edited by humans. According to Advon, their writers, editors, and researchers create and curate content and follow a policy that involves using both counter-plagiarism and counter-AI software on all content. However, we have learned that Advon had writers use a pen or pseudo-name in certain articles to protect author privacy, actions we don't condone, and we are removing the content while our internal investigation continues and have since ended the partnership with Advon. So again, third party, Arena, the parent company, is saying Advon has assured us that all the articles written were written by humans. It's all on Advon now, the third party, right? It's kind of what they're saying. They've assured us it was written by humans. No one that reported on this article or no one in media is buying that at all. They think all of this is AI generated, not just the people.
Here's how they've pieced it together. So they have, and it was a report from yesterday, or earlier today, excuse me. So a number of the headshots, it's not just the bio, but you also have a headshot of said writer.
Yep.
Where you can also find the headshot on the website used to generate AI headshots if you're looking for one. So they're digging into that, and you can click on the fake name. In this case, it's Drew Ortiz. I guess SI can just produce this guy and solve any dispute here about whether or not it's a real writer. But for instance, here's the bio. Drew likes to say that he grew up in the wild, which is true. He grew up in a farmhouse surrounded by woods, fields, and a creek. Drew has spent much of his life outdoors and is excited to guide you through his never-ending list of the best products to keep you from falling into the perils of nature. Nowadays, there's rarely a weekend that goes by where Drew isn't out camping, hiking, or just back on his parents' farm. All right, then, let's see Drew Ortiz, who, by the way, they even give a email address for. So all the back and forth statements, let's see the product reviews team member.
Drew Ortiz is not real. They're acknowledging that.
But that's what
they're saying. A real person wrote that story that is claimed to be written by Drew Ortiz to protect the identity of the author.
For the author of a story that's so mundane and boring?
That is what Advon is claiming. Arena, the parent company of SI, being very clear to separate themselves from this third party and saying Advon has assured us humans wrote this story, but they used pseudo names, AI-generated photos, AI generated bios of people, whatever it is, to protect the actual author's identity. Now, again, they could easily fall back and say, well, they assured us of that, but we've also ended the partnership with
But
them.
think about this. The other business has assured us that this is real.
It's on Arena and SI.
But
That's who it's on.
SI is now just allowing them to tell them, hey, this is actually written by a real person. This is just generated. And you've got Gannett, who was experimenting with this in their local newspaper news coverage. And they've paused the experiment. They were experimenting with this prior to even finding out if it was legit or not, and if there were going to be glitches in this. But aside from the glitches, think about just the news aspect of your local paper, or what Sports Illustrated used to be, compared to allowing a third party to just tell them, yeah, this is a fake headshot, and it's the fake person, Drew Ortiz, who loves camping. That's all made up. And for whatever reason, to protect the identity of someone who's going to be writing specifically about product reviews. What? What have we become?
It's bad. I mean, look, it is bad, and this is no knock at Livy Dunn, but the biggest thing of substance for Sports Illustrated today is they announced Livy Dunn's going to be back in the swimsuit edition. That's what I think about Sports Illustrated from a journalistic standpoint now compared to what they once were. That's sad for sports journalism. That's kind of where we are,
Chad,
with AI generated stuff.
If they did the page now of faces in the crowd, they'd all be fake.
They'd all be fake. And here's my just big picture question here. Is there a Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer of AI that is warning people against the problems with this, that's behind it, but also a caretaker of sorts for the future of how this is all getting twisted? Because when the atom bomb was created and nuclear weapons started, there's people that were guarding against that and what it could become and what it could lead to. Are there gatekeepers out there that are high up in technology companies, that are scientists that are behind this, that are saying, whoa, guys, we need to back up the truck, get that, the reverse sound going on the car, because we're getting a little bit ahead of our skis now with AI and what we're trying to do with it, and this leads to a bad future. I hope there are people that are putting up some guardrails for a lot of this. I know a lot of the writer's strike and things going on in Hollywood was all about AI, a lot of it. So there are things happening that's trying to prevent sort of the creative apocalypse from taking place, which could happen with all this AI stuff. And that's the sad part about it.
There is a lane for this where I think it's really good. I think in healthcare, it's helping find medical data. It will help with the diagnosis. They use it for treatment plans. There is good within it. I think it's just BS, quite frankly, that news outlets, sports, news, whatever, Gannett, experimenting with AI about news that they're going to print in the paper and produce as, this is fair, accurate, and legit, when they're using all kinds of the same adjectives, verbs, punctuation. They're just inserting a different subject matter, different name, different school, different hospital, whatever, and it's all the same garbage. That is a totally different lane. That's fake and, quite frankly, just from a news standpoint, unethical, from a reporting and news stance. Ridiculous.
Well, and why do you think they're doing it?
Because it's cheap.
It's greed. They want bigger profits. I mean, that's why it's cheaper to do this than to employ an actual human and, pay for benefits and give them a salary to do the job. That's it's the human part of this that it offends me more than anything else. At the end of the day, is that it's taking jobs away from people. It's also taking information, good information, away from the people, which is supposed to be the goal of journalism and news.
Yes.
The very definition of news has changed.
Well, the coverage of this is generated by AI.
We don't even know what news is anymore. We've lost the grasp of that.
You're right.
What all of us could have grown up saying, oh, that's the news. Now the definition of news is different from person to person. And the big problem with this, it's not just it's not consumer to consumer. It is media company to media company that defines news differently and what it is.
Oh, and the media companies are two-faced too in their own regard.
Absolutely. We are headed for a
They'll
media
say one thing publicly,
apocalypse
do something
when it comes to these
completely
things.
different behind the scenes, and that's also BS.
And it's also, some of this is just greed related. I mean, it comes down to that. It's what do we think can get the biggest profit, and how do we lay off people? How do we cut jobs? How do we not have humans do this? It's scary times, not just in news media. It's scary times in media. It's scary times all over the place with stuff like this and stories like this.
The accountability. But ultimately, the public has to ensure the accountability, not those overseeing what they're putting in the paper or what is pushed as real. So SI is just going to randomly say, like, oh, we're telling you what they're telling us. And that's the statement. That's not good enough. And for whatever reason, by and large, we allow it to go on. Like if Gannett's going to do that, cut the subscription, right? Like,
yeah,
let's experiment with just not paying them.
Yeah, and that is the answer. It's to find those that are doing it the right way, and there are people that do it the right way in coverage. I think now it's come down more to the individual, right? Like you gotta have. It's not just company to company. It's I like this part of this person who works for this company and the work they do, so I'll support them. You got to get almost individualistic with it about who you want to read, who you want to watch, who you want to listen to, and go to them and support them if you want to ensure that more people like that you like, whether it be content creation or news coverage, whatever it is, support those people and make sure they stay employed. That's one way to help out. And I think you're right, Hutton. And look, with Sports Illustrated, I don't know a single person who works for Sports Illustrated anymore. I don't know a writer. I don't know what it is they're doing. And it's in large part because of stories like this about AI-generated stories and where they've lost their way. You got to make sure that those that do stuff like this, like Gannett, the story we covered, you got to stop supporting them.
Well, and here's the thing, too. The last time we brought this up, it's like, oh, it's a high school football report. That's not my point about why they're using it for that. They're experimenting in that lane. What they want is the perception, and it's a lie. What they want is the perception for the Tennessean here in town, where their slogan is "Everyday Matters." They want you to believe that they're covering the local hometowns where your kids are playing, and they're not. They're not expecting you to click on the headline, but there's content there if you do, and if you don't, you at least glance by it, and you see that they're covering the game that happened where you can hear the band playing, you see the lights on from your back porch. It's a straight-up lie. And far too often, media companies that present themselves as truth-sayers, we're ethical and we're unfiltered. We are going to be on the up and up and tell you how it is. Behind the scenes, they're not doing that. And this is case in point. Everyday matters as long as they make budget. And thank God the experiment didn't work, because if it did, they're moving that experiment on to the local coverage of whatever police blotter came through, and they'll write up something based on what you had someone jot down and insert into a newspaper report for AI to then write a story around. That's where we were headed, and that's where we are headed, because for whatever reason, you keep giving your time, which is valuable, to sites that will lie to you, or you give money to news organizations and big money organizations that don't really care as long as you keep your subscription.
What's crazy?
That's crazy to me that people do that.
Here's also what's crazy. For a while, big media, mainstream media, they would look down their nose at the individuals who would go to the web to cover something, to start a website, to have a blog, to do whatever. Oh, that's not real media. And now increasingly, I'm telling you, I find some actual journalism done by individuals more than mainstream media or big media companies out there. I find more down the middle coverage at times of sports or something by the individual that takes to the internet to do it. Like it's kind of flipping at times where big media, mainstream media at times, maybe we shouldn't trust everything they're doing and saying because of interest, whereas others you can trust more. That's crazy to think of where we are.
I hope that's the case.